Hello and welcome back to Thacker Sunday Hangover with me, James Thacker. I hope you're well. You join me on a calm Saturday evening. It's been a beautiful day actually. Managed to spend some time with the family. It's been really nice. I went for a bit of a house viewing, so I'm looking at getting my first house. So I've been looking at that recently. It's a bit of an exciting time. But yeah, it's the weekend. I hope everyone's enjoying themselves. I hope you're staying safe. I hope that everyone's enjoying getting back out there and also enjoying this sun. Although it does still feel like it's a tiny bit too nippy to be sat outside at 8 o'clock having meals outside and in the beer gardens. But hopefully before too long, we'll be back to normal. Things seem to be going in the right trajectory. And I know I've said it before on the podcast, but it really does feel like things are picking up now, and that we're still heading in the right direction. Although, yeah, I think the scientists are saying, that the guys that are advising the government, that we are at where we were around late summer last year in terms of the infection rate. And I saw today actually that they're having a test event up in Liverpool with, it looked like a rave, how we were, pre-lockdown, pre-COVID times. As a test as to see how things can progress and to see if we're ready for that kind of event. Yeah, it does feel like it's a little bit of a lab rat type feel. I don't know if anyone else shares this feeling, but I don't know whether we should just, because that was a kind of open air but close proximity event where you've got hundreds of people in there closed in, but we're still in stadiums and in sports events, still seated 2 meters apart. People are being encouraged not to chant or wearing masks. So I'm a bit confused as to how people can be out there raving. But you know what? I think people are now at a point where we have just got to get back out there, especially as things are opening up. I think the weather's better. I think seasonal affective. I think it's seasonal affective disorder. The how you're affected by the change in weather. I think that's very prominent, and I think now that things are sunnier now, it's time for people to get back out there and enjoying themselves, because people have been cooped up for too long. And I think any longer, then people are going to start to go slightly crazy. So there you go. If you are going out and about, obviously look after yourselves the best that you can, and I hope you're well. This week for me, it's been a little bit of a frustrating one, only for the reason that I had a slight calf injury at training this week, so prohibited me from training. It's only a slight little niggle, and hopefully I'll be back next week. But it just kind of made me realise how much I really do need rugby, and when you've got it back and you start playing and start gathering momentum, when it gets taken away, it really can be quite frustrating. And the couple of times I went actually in the gym instead of going out to train, but coming away from the session, you're not nearly as fulfilled as when you're out there enjoying the time with your mates. So that's what it was for me this week. In the gym, my S&C coach Sheethy, he got me on the assault bike, doing some pretty grim cardio. So thank you for that, Sheethy. But it's all good. It's all about keeping on top of that fitness and getting ready for, hopefully, games at the end of May. We've got 4 fixtures that are provincially kind of lined up for us to go and play. So hopefully that those go ahead, and hopefully I'll be ready. I think this calf strain is only a slight issue. It should be fine by next week. Other things that have been going on this week, I actually listened to an amazing podcast. I think it was released a while ago, but I've only just found it, and I'm really glad I did. It's the High Performance Podcast. I think the host is Jake Humphreys, and it was with Johnny Wilkinson. Johnny Wilkinson is one of my all-time rugby heroes. He was someone that performed at an elite level and just was elite in everything he did in terms of the preparation, the practice. I think people reported him staying behind way after training, perfecting his kick time and time again. But it was absolutely fascinating to learn that in in this podcast that he was doing, and they were talking about how do you perform at high performance, or what do you consider to be high performance. And he actually mentioned that he wasn't at all happy during his career. I think he suffered with or various bouts of mental health issues, and that was due to the fact that he just couldn't enjoy himself fully when he was doing the thing that he loved, which was rugby. Every single thing that he did, he was just so obsessed with consequences and not being in the moment and not having flow. And an idea that he went through in the podcast, which I found really fascinating, was with every single thing you do, no matter how minute. And he gives an example of when he was at the fair with his family, and he was trying to sink some baskets in this basketball stall. And beforehand, he said he was so obsessed with outcomes and consequences that he would just get so wound up and be so worried that what would happen if I missed this shot, that he couldn't enjoy himself at all. And so it completely took away the enjoyment, and it also had a prohibitive effect on his ability to go and perform. So obviously he's giving this example with the basketball, and he said that before, during his playing career, he would absolutely be terrified of the decision. He'd be overanalyzing everything, completely overthinking. He would be worried about the kind of audience that he's performing that in front of, to make sure that he doesn't want to look stupid, or he sees himself as a failure. But now he's taken the mindset that in order to enjoy, in order to be the highest performing person that he can possibly be, he wants to absolutely live in the moment and not be obsessed with consequences. Don't think about what's going to happen. Just live in the now. And that's something that I thought was amazing. So when he was giving this basketball example, he thought not too much about it, but he was just living in that moment, analysing, okay, he missed the first two. That one he slightly pulled with his finger, and the third one he got in. But then that was it. He didn't think about it again. So the outcome, I think he won a little bear for his child, and that was obviously fantastic. But then he didn't think about it after that. And I think, and you'll have to listen to the full podcast to get the context as to where that sits in, because he's talking about, being high performing is accepting that you are much more than your profession, and much more than just a rugby player, just in anything in life. And I think when you take away the stress of obsessing about consequences of your actions and just fully live the moment, then you'll find yourself being a lot more high performing, because you're just letting it flow. You're letting yourself flow. You're letting yourself, perform as second nature, rather than overanalyzing and thinking too intrinsically about every single little thing. I thought it was absolutely fascinating. So after this podcast, go and watch or listen to the High Performance podcast by Jake Humphreys. And he also has a co-host, but I don't remember his name, so forgive me for that. But it's with Johnny Wilkinson. Absolutely fascinating listen. And I can't recommend it highly enough. It was very, very motivating when I was sat on the static bike on a Friday evening. So and it's, for me at the moment, I'm absolutely loving learning about new things. I'm reading new books. The David Goggins book in particular, that Can't Hurt Me, is just changing my outlook on life. I think tied into Johnny's way of thinking, when you are able to control your mind, and this is something that I'm still very much on the start of my journey to be able to do, but when you are able to control your mind and frame things in a certain way, and be able to relay messages to the rest of your body based purely on a controlled mind, then your potential is just exponential in terms of how far you can push yourself to your limits. And it's something that I need to tap into. I think one thing, if I'm being honest with myself, that Goggins talks about is, pushing yourself past the pain barriers, pushing yourself to places that you've not been before, in these places of growth, and to grit your teeth and enjoy pain, enjoy the process, enjoy that journey to get to somewhere that you want to be. before I may have been too quick to accept my limitations. And quite like what Johnny Wilkinson says, I think when we talk about potential, people always say, oh, well, he's fulfilled his potential, she has fulfilled their potential, or they've got XYZ potential. And I think we frame that as that's your ceiling. The potential is your ceiling, but actually reframing it, the potential is just your next limit until you realize, okay, well, I can perform here now. Where's the next step? What's the next thing I can go on and achieve? And it's flicking the switch in that sense where you're reframing things. It's just, my mind's being blown. You can probably see as I'm trying to explain this, but I think as a race and as people, we are very quick to accept our limitations and not break them and not want the next thing. And that's something that I've probably done to this point in not just my professional career, which I'm still early on in, but also rugby in the past. And I think when I've had setbacks, I've maybe kind of not gone away and acted or reacted positively on that. And I think going forward, I just want to find new ceilings, find new limitations, explore the capabilities of my body, my mind, keep pushing, because I think there's one statistic that Goggins points out, and I think it's when we think we're done from a physical or mental space, when we think we're fully done, we can't give any more, usually that's about 40% of what we can give. And for me, that's really exciting because that means that there's so much more to explore as to what our potential and redefining what our potential as human beings is. So there you go. That's been my week, and obviously sometimes it gets deep. Sometimes it can lead out. I'm a classic overthinker, and I do overthink things a lot. When you learn about this kind of way of thinking and how people have learned and the journeys that they've gone on, and you're listening to this, you're thinking, wow, you can get quite in the reeds of the way that you're thinking. But no, I've really enjoyed it, and it's definitely given me a lot of food for thought. So hopefully I can take those things on, continuing developing my mind and my ability to control my mind more, and hopefully push those kind of those potentials and those limitations like I haven't before. So from the title of this podcast, you'll know that the topic of it will be around energy givers, energy takers, and is a positive mental attitude something that we can control, and is it something that is more of an effort thing rather than something that is externally influenced on us, or something that we can't control? And this is something that I've thought about for a number of years as to, can we generate our own energy? Are we as humans, do we have a propensity to be more self-generating in terms of our energy, in terms of, how positive of a mindset can we bring into every day? And I've got various examples as to where in my life I feel like I have been the one to bring the energy, and sometimes it's not reciprocated. And then as a consequence, how much of my energy is then given to other people, or actually is it given, is it taken by those other people who aren't bringing that positive mentality and bringing energy into every day? I think in terms of energy levels as human beings will fluctuate based on mood, and I think it ties in beautifully to the kind of forthcoming of mental health in recent years, where we've become a lot more aware of our mental health. I think we're still on a journey, and my generation in particular is really good at recognizing mental health fluctuations. Sometimes you'll be in a really good place and you'll be flying and everything's hunky-dory, and then for no reason in particular, or for reasons that can or can't be explained, you'll hit a dip. And obviously I'd say that mental health and that side of things is different to energy and the positive mindset, because as much as you may suffer a mental dip or mental health issues, I think your proactiveness in looking to solve those issues also is quite telling. And I know that sometimes mental health issues can really demotivate you and you can struggle to get out of bed. And sometimes people really are gripped by mental health issues. But at the same time, I think there are so many things that are in our control that we can really, that can help us towards a more positive and healthy mentality. And that's an idea that I wanted to explore. So this podcast is me going to kind of be exploring a theory that I've had, thinking out loud. But again, I'm always open to people's contributions. So I'll, in the comments section below, either the Instagram post or the YouTube video. In fact, I'd be more than welcome to open the dialogue and think about this more, because I think it's something that maybe is not talked about a lot. At least not in my circles that I speak to anyway. I suppose to set the scene based on where I'm coming from, and actually I think where I first logged this train of thought, I'll actually read what I first noted down. I think in around 2016 was my mentality around this topic, and then maybe that can set the scene and I'll kind of explore it further. I think since then my mindset's changed, and obviously my opinions change, and you find out new things, and so we'll take a look at it, and hopefully it'll be of interest. Again, be good to know what you think. But my S&C coaches at Saracens taught me the importance of being an energy giver. They taught me not only to be an energy giver so that my performance would increase, but the performance of others around me would increase as they'd feed off my energy. So I remember in a pitch environment, you never want to, if something goes wrong, you don't want to then capitulate and bring the mood down, because other people can sense that energy. They may lose confidence then. They may, it may affect their own energy and how they're feeling about themselves, or the confidence of the team. So that will negatively affect the general performance. So in the example where you're in the face of adversity, the best possible thing to do is to react positively to that and go, okay, right, we're on to the next job, or let's flush that, focus on the next thing, or respond, just responding it in a positive way that isn't, I made a mistake, damn, like start swearing, throwing your toys out the pram, because people then feed off that negativity, and it's not conducive to a good team environment. Energy takers are the worst kind of people to be, as they draw energy from the situation or scenario, and they can dull a mood, dampen a performance, or lead to lacking positivity or creativity. Now, obviously, that's quite harsh language that the younger version of myself has used, in that they're the worst kind of person to be. Definitely exacerbated that. However, I think it's, when you walk into a room and you can sense the energy takers, because they're not necessarily contributing a lot to the atmosphere, or they're not contributing something that's positive. I've had members of my team, professionally and in a rugby environment, where if they're kind of just sitting there, and if they're not bought into the message, or if they're having a bad day and they're kind of sulking, or something's not going right for them, they can draw the energy, and again, it kind of prohibits the ability to move on and create a positive or creative solution, or even just there then has a restriction on the enjoyment of the situation as well. So I think my opinion of energy takers has come from experiences with people who, and I can draw on one example in particular that is kind of cemented in my mind for all time. There was one person that I used to work with on internship, that every day when they came in, there was always something different that was wrong. And don't get me wrong, we used to talk about it, and I used to kind of offer an ear to, see if we could uncover a solution. But it was the first thing that they said. And I remember in the office in Bracknell that I used to work at, there was a coffee shop area right as you go into the building, and as soon as you open the door, it's there. and I was lining up for coffee one day, and I noticed one of my colleague walk in the door, and I said, "Good morning, so and so. How are you? How's it going?" And straight away, their first response, "I'm so tired. I'm so tired." Like, not even, "Hi, good morning. I'm very tired this morning." Da, 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 da. It's, "I'm so tired." Like, essentially just started unloading their problems straight away, and kind of really drew the energy. And I'm not saying that it's bad to talk about your problems. However, I've always been a fervent believer that the first thing or the first encounter with someone of a day, or if you haven't seen someone in a while, that should be a positive experience. That should be, coming together. It's good to see you. Good morning. And I think when you start reaffirming that in your mind, this positive outlook, then it can actually heighten your own mood. Now, what we're talking about is very delicate, because there can be this very delicate balance between pretending to yourself that everything's okay, and just having that kind of, trying to force yourself into, "Hi, good morning," and that raises your kind of, I suppose, positivity levels, endorphins, and it gets you, I suppose, it gets you thinking in a more positive way. I then go on to say, I believe that it is all a matter of mindset. One can choose whether to be tired or not. I think any person can do or be anything as long as they really will it to be so. I feel like there's preventative measures to prevent tiredness and therefore energy taking. So obviously, this is probably a little bit of an immature mindset, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of external factors that can have an effect on our tiredness levels. And as much as we try, it can be very difficult to ward off tiredness, and especially if in this day and age, everyone's got incredibly hectic schedules. Everyone's very busy. Everyone's got a lot of things on their plate. I think where I was coming from, and where I do come from, is that in the morning when you first wake up, if you've done everything that you can do, you get a good night's sleep, you stay hydrated, you are kind of engaging with the right materials, your nutrition's all correct, and you're doing everything that you can to prevent that tiredness. I think it's about a mindset, is how you want to wake up that day, as to what influence you're going to have in the day, and how much positivity you're going to bring into it. So if you don't put into practice those preventative measures, and you effectively choose to be tired and are an energy taker, I believe you're selfish. And as energy takers, do not add to situations but take for them. How is anyone or anything supposed to be able to grow when energy takers are in effect? So again, it's harsh language, but I think so much can be achieved when you're surrounded by people that are energy givers, and that it tends to be, I find myself gravitating towards energy givers, because I want to be with like-minded people that are going to constantly help each other and lift each other up, rather than take energy away. And you do get people with that kind of mindset where there could be jealousy or envy. There could be the fact that they don't like seeing people who are buzzing with energy, and they're really trying to make a positive impact. And some people, I'm really, for the life of me, I don't know why, but they don't like it, and they try and suck you into this kind of negative vortex, because they want you to be at the same level. So, and because I think people have this kind of superiority complex where, people don't ever want to feel worse than anyone else. So if you do see someone that's super energetic, bubbly, happy, and things are going for them, or they're trying to bring a lot of positivity, and you're not necessarily feeling that way, then you're going to want to bring them down to that level. And I suppose that then, in essence, you then take the energy by, bringing up something negative, or not wanting to focus on the positive, and, being wary of that positive conversation that's going on. Again, this is just theory. Of course, occasionally external influences will affect one's personal scenario that can throw one's course off track. Wow, I'm sounding super pretentious here. I'm using a lot of ones, but even then, I believe the person should take responsibility to put measures into place that they're able to react to such events positively. So I think in life we're going to have curveballs that come our way. We're going to have negative externalities that are going to come in and affect our lives to a level. However, I think something that I've tried to do, and it's not applicable to all situations, but when you break it down to wanting to control the controllables, when you only worry about the actual things that you can control yourself, then anything that happens that you can't control kind of becomes less of a stress and less of a worry. And when you start to think about, okay, well, what are the things that I can control about my mood? Well, I can control how much sleep I'm getting. I can control which kind of people I'm interacting with. Is that person that I'm speaking to on a regular basis constantly bringing up negative topics and bringing me down, and probably not good for me in terms of my energy levels and my psyche. What's my nutrition like? Am I eating lots of fast food? Am I eating lots of stuff that is not contributing to my actual health significantly, or am I eating really well, full of energy rich nutrients, and is my diet full of that? I think when you break it down to that level when it comes to energy giving, then the controllables are very clear, and any kind of uncontrollables, like I'm going to pick this because it's just off the top of my head, but if someone, say for instance, dings your car, or if someone, if injury happens in your sport, or say for instance, you don't get something your way at work, or if someone wants to act out, or something unprecedented happens, those things are uncontrollable. And so if you don't worry so much about the uncontrollables, then how much can it really affect your mood? And I think by taking as many energy kind of variables into account that you can control, it will enhance your mood. It will create, I suppose, it will allow you to be an energy giver. Like I said, I only like to surround myself with positive energy because I personally feel a buzz and an aura of warmth and enhancement when I am around such people. I believe that there is a mental switch that we're able to activate. The art, I suppose, is finding that switch. So I suppose I'm still trying to fully locate that switch, because I definitely feel like some mornings I get up and I'm really low on energy, and sometimes I don't necessarily know why. Sometimes though, I can put it down to the fact that I haven't put the effort in. I have not done. I think if we all ask ourselves very honest and open questions, and things that we don't necessarily want to answer about ourselves, have you put the effort in? Have you done absolutely everything you can do to be an energy giver today? And I think a lot of people will answer no to that, because this, again, we've got so much going on in our lives. I think it's very easy to take the lazier option and to do things that are very self-serving now, and the things that feel good now, rather than worrying about, okay, well, what's going to happen tomorrow? What do I need to do to make sure that I'm the best me tomorrow, and to make sure that I'm energy giving? So I think in terms of, my point in all of this is that there's a lot more that we're able to do as humans in terms of being able to be energy givers. And when we surround ourselves, when we are an energy giver, when we are in a group of energy givers, then the results are so much better. I remember, successful organisations and successful teams like Saracens, they feed off everyone just bringing positive energy into every single day. From personal reflection, I react so much better to people that are buzzing with energy and they want to work with you. They want to, they take an active interest in you. That's kind of like route 101 of sales, especially, is that when you take an active interest and you start trying to build rapport actively by being an active listener and showing empathy and bringing some energy in the conversation, you're so much more engaging. You're so much more compelling as a human when you're bringing that energy. And that's those are the kind of people that I always want to interact with, and the people that I enjoy being around with. So I think the point of that is, and I'm again, I'd really love to know what everyone thinks about this topic. I suppose the questions to ask are, how much are we in control of our own energy levels? Do you think it's something that can be controlled, or do you think that there are too many externalities to take care of, to be wary of? or do you think it's too intrinsically tied into mental health? Now, I think they do go hand in hand. I think if you are suffering a negative mental health episode, then some things can be very, very difficult to get yourself out of. I think that's the reason why we need good support networks. That's why we talk about asking how people are you okay, checking in with people, making sure that you're opening up, making sure that you're talking through those things. But I think your mentality around that is not to go, things are really bad, I can't see a way out, I'm just going to give up, but actually acting positively on that and thinking, okay, things are really bad, how can I get myself out? What are the small things that I can do, even if it's very, very tiny, but every day just get a little bit better to help myself and help myself improve and get me back to where I want to be mentally. If it's something that you can't self-generate, then are you going to take the actions like going to see a counsellor or a psychologist, speaking out to a friend? I think at the end of the day, there are clear differences between when you're suffering a negative mental health episode and when you're just feeling grumpy or feeling in a bad mood or you're just having a bit of an off day, but it's something that you can control. But I think when we actually ask ourselves open and honest questions, I think it drives a lot better behaviours, and it's something that I certainly haven't mastered, but it's something that I'm definitely going to look to do and just try and bring more energy and be a net energy giver in more scenarios than not, because that can lead to such a more fulfilled and enriched life. And I just think, especially in the UK, I mean, in the UK, we are notorious for loving a moan and moaning about the weather, moaning about the traffic, moaning about a colleague, a work situation, that and the other. And when you think about that at a societal level, we base so much of our conversations on energy taking. I think in general, when you unlock that energy giving side, your ability to be reactive, to be creative, to be, productive in that whatever scenario you find yourself in is enhanced exponentially. And so, yeah, that's something that I hope has been of interest. Obviously, it can be quite contentious, but I'd again, like I said, I'd really like to hear what you think. So please pop any kind of comments or questions you have in the YouTube comments below, or in fact on the Thacker Sunday Hangover Instagram page. I think one other idea that I wanted to explore is the idea of being present, and this links into what I'd learnt around the Johnny Wilkinson podcast, is this idea of being truly present in the moment. And how important is it to be present? I think so much of the time we are so focused on what's to come rather than what's now. I think so many of us, when we're living our life, are thinking about, okay, well, I'm doing this for the next step in my career. I'm doing this for the next team I'm going to get into in sport. I'm doing this for the next stage in my relationship. I'm doing this. And you're always thinking, okay, well, what's to come, what's to come? And I think this is something that we're all guilty of as humans, because we're always thinking about what's next. And I think if we continue to do that, I think there's such a tendency to never be happy, because you're always thinking about that next best thing, rather than purely just enjoying the moment and enjoying that process that you're going through now. I remember, and this is going to sound like I'm trying to blow my own trumpet, but I'm really not. But one of the obviously proudest moments of my life was scoring for England against Wales when I was 16. But actually, because I was so worried about the next thing, I didn't take a lot of time, and it did all happen in a blur very quickly. But because I was worried about the next thing, the next team I could get into, the next thing, what did scoring that try mean for my future? I think I was so worried about what was going to happen next, I didn't take time to really treasure that moment and really remember it and soak it all in and live that very moment. And I have very, very distorted memories of that moment. But to be honest, I can't, there are certain things in my mind that I can remember very vividly. Maybe it's a result of too many concussions, I don't know. But I can't actually remember scoring that try. I remember, I can see how it looks because it's been videoed. I've seen pictures, and obviously it was me there. But I can't remember it. And I think it's because we are so obsessed with, okay, but what's next? Okay, what's next? So I think it's so important to be present in everything that we do. And I think it links in perfectly to what Johnny Wilkinson said around don't worry so much about consequences, just enjoy the moment. Enjoy being in that flow state. Enjoy letting things be second nature to you. Having that full engagement with the thing that you're doing and not worried about what's next. I think it's finding that balance between having, being organized and not completely forgetting about the context of what you're doing within your day, because we have multiple things to do in every single day that we live. But whilst we're doing one action, while we're completing a task, while we're playing a game, while we're talking to a friend, be absolutely present in the moment, because that's how we make memories. That's how we really enjoy and are so much more fulfilled in enjoying every single moment. And on that, I think I'm going to end today's podcast. I know it's been a bit of a weird one where we've explored some weird theories, and hopefully, there'll be some debate at the back of this, and I'm more than happy to speak about anything that I've put across in today's podcast. Absolutely more than happy. I guess in the future, my main takeaways from the things that I'm learning about and the things that I've been reading about most recently and just reflecting on is to be present and I suppose engaged in every single moment, and to enjoy life and to prioritize happiness and fulfillment. That's the biggest thing, and to push ourselves to our limits and not accepting our potential as our best, but our potential is just our next limit. I think if we do that, there is literally untapped potential that a lot of us can realise, and that for me is a really exciting thing. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Thacker Sunday Hangover. Have an absolutely fantastic week, and I really hope to see you again soon. On the YouTube channel, if you'd like to like and subscribe, that would be absolutely fantastic. And if you can, on the podcast platform, subscribe and follow, whatever you need to do on your podcast platforms, that would be really appreciated. I'm loving growing the community and actually speaking to people about this podcast when I come into contact with people now. It's really fantastic. So yeah, if there's one thing I can ask, that would be it. But thanks very much. Have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you soon.